You think your pain is unique. You think your suffering is proof that life has betrayed you, that something went wrong, that someone owes you an apology. But what if Nietzsche was right? What if pain is not an error, but a requirement? He didn't believe you should be spared from suffering. He believed suffering is the only thing keeping you from becoming no one. He called it Amor Fati, the love of fate, not accepting what happened, not tolerating it, loving it, choosing it, using it, even if it breaks you. This is not a video about comfort. This is a video about confrontation, because your pain is not special. It's your raw material. Modern culture taught you to fear discomfort, to treat suffering like a glitch in the system, to see it as a flaw, a sign that something has gone wrong. But Nietzsche didn't see pain that way. He saw it as part of the architecture, as something earned, not escaped. You were told that if you're hurting, someone must be blamed, that pain is proof of injustice, that healing starts with finding a reason, a culprit, a name. But what if that's just another layer of denial? What if the pain isn't pointing outward, but inward? We live in a world obsessed with comfort, safety, and fairness. We expect life to reward us simply for existing. We expect softness even when we've never built strength. You were handed a lie, that happiness is the default, that you're entitled to joy without friction, that struggle is a sign you're broken, not becoming. But Nietzsche shattered that illusion. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. This isn't poetry. It's a challenge. He's not asking you to romanticize pain. He's asking you to stop fleeing from it, to stop using suffering as proof of your special sadness and start seeing it as your curriculum. Because the truth is, life will break you either way. You can be destroyed by it, or you can be forged inside it. Pain is not unjust. It's indifferent. It doesn't target the weak or reward the strong. It just comes, like fire, like flood, to test the structure of what you've built inside. But most people collapse the moment it arrives, because they spent their lives pretending they should be immune to it. Because no one ever told them pain is not the problem. Your resistance to it is. And so you bargain. You look for meaning, but only the kind that justifies your rage, not the kind that reveals your patterns. You look for someone to blame. Your parents, your partner, God, yourself. But blame is a distraction. It might feel righteous. It might feel justified. But it's still a cage. Because every time you say, "This shouldn't have happened," you make yourself smaller than the pain. You let it own you. You let it define you. And Nietzsche was not interested in people who wanted protection. He was interested in those willing to burn, not to be punished, but to be reborn. So no, your pain is not unjust. It is not unfair. It is not even unique. It is your first invitation, your initiation, your rite of passage, not to become the victim, but to become someone who can survive the fire and still speak.
You want peace, but you avoid everything that could lead to it. You want growth, but you run from every discomfort that demands it. You want to become someone new, but you refuse to let the old version of you die. And that's why you're stuck. Because pain isn't just something you survive. It's what melts you down, what tears away the illusion of who you were told to be so something real can emerge. Nietzsche didn't see pain as an obstacle. He saw it as a forge, a brutal, necessary fire that burns away the false self. Not a glitch, a gateway. But most people avoid the fire. They decorate the cage instead. They distract themselves. They numb. They wait for the pain to pass, not realizing it's there to pass through them. Think about it. The most powerful people you've ever met, the most grounded, wise, quietly intense souls, are not the ones who avoided pain. They're the ones who sat in it, who didn't flinch, who let it break them without letting it destroy them. Because pain isn't a punishment. It's a sculptor. It chips away everything that isn't you. But that only works if you stop resisting. You say, "This is too much," but maybe it's exactly enough. You say, "I don't know who I am anymore." Good. That means the mask is cracking. You say, "I can't take this version of me." Perfect. That means it's time to build a new one. This is the forge. And the forge doesn't care about your timeline. It doesn't move faster just because you're tired. It burns at the pace you're willing to surrender. And it will burn. It will set fire to your false pride, to the roles you play, to the lies you told yourself to stay small. It will incinerate every excuse you've ever used to stay in your comfort zone, until all that's left is the core, raw, exposed, still beating. That's where the real work begins. You won't find yourself in the mirror. You'll find yourself in the collapse, in the silence after the scream, in the stillness after the fire has gone cold and you realize you're still alive. You didn't die. Not really. You just lost the version of you that wasn't real. Pain is not trying to break you. It's trying to wake you, to remind you of what you were born capable of, before you were tamed, before you were molded, before you were made into something manageable. This world doesn't want you whole. It wants you obedient, quiet, contained. But pain has another agenda. It wants you real. And real doesn't come from ease. It comes from destruction, from being stripped down to the bone and still choosing to stand. That's the forge. That's what Nietzsche saw. Not a soft, poetic path to self-love, but a brutal, honest, sacred process of becoming through fire.
It's easy to accept life when things go your way, when love feels safe, when your plans unfold like you imagined, when your name is praised and your heart is full. But what happens when it all collapses? What do you do with the death you didn't choose, with the betrayal you never saw coming, with the silence that swallows your prayers? What do you do with the parts of your story that no one will ever apologize for? This is where Nietzsche steps in, not with comfort, but with confrontation. He didn't say, learn to live with the pain. He said, love it. Not tolerate it, not endure it. Love it. That's Amor Fati. Not a soft surrender, but a brutal, conscious yes to every scar life carved into you. Because when you reject your fate, you reject your power. You remain at war with reality, and reality always wins. But when you say yes, when you choose to lean into what was meant to destroy you, you take your life back. Even if it's broken. Especially if it's broken. Because broken things can't be controlled anymore. They don't fit back into the system. They become wild, free, unusable by the world, but finally usable by the soul. People confuse this with passivity. But Amor Fati is not passive. It's not giving up. It's owning every part of what shaped you, without trying to edit the past. It's not saying, this shouldn't have happened. It's saying, this is what happened, and I refuse to let it make me smaller. Amor Fati doesn't ask you to be okay. It asks you to stand in the middle of the fire and say, yes, this too. Yes to the loss. Yes to the humiliation. Yes to the shadow that chased you for years. Not because you wanted it, not because it felt good, but because it forged something in you that peace never could. And here's the paradox Nietzsche forces you to confront. You do not become free by escaping pain. You become free by saying, let it come, let it burn, let it make me whole. That's not detachment. That's not denial. That's not spiritual bypassing. That is the deepest act of self-respect imaginable. To take your suffering and make something sacred from it. Amor Fati is not a mantra. It's a war cry. A war against the part of you that still believes life owes you something. A war against the illusion that you'd be whole if your pain had never happened. Nietzsche knew better, and so do you. You don't need a different past. You need to become someone who can carry it, without bowing to it.
At some point, the pain stopped being a process and became your personality. You stopped healing and started performing the wound, wearing it, naming yourself by it, letting it speak for you before you even open your mouth. You didn't mean to do it. It wasn't conscious, but it felt safer to build a home in your suffering than to step into a world where you might be hurt again. So you held on. You wrapped your pain in poetry, in victimhood, in meaning. You called it depth. You called it truth. You called it me. But Nietzsche would warn you, be careful what you love, because it will shape who you become. And some of us have grown attached to the identity we found in suffering. We protect it, because without it, who are we? If I let go of my pain, I lose my story. I lose my explanation. I lose the reason why I feel the way I feel. And that is terrifying. So we cling. We cling to the betrayal, to the heartbreak, to the childhood wound, to the label we gave it. Because if we stay hurt, we don't have to be responsible. We don't have to be new. We don't have to take risks. We just have to bleed beautifully, quietly, forever. But there is no strength in that. There is no freedom in that. Only a slow, poetic decay. Pain was supposed to break you open, not become your name. What Nietzsche offered
was not a celebration of suffering, but a confrontation with what happens when we start using pain as proof of who we are. Because you are not your sadness, you are not your failure, you are not the echo of what they did to you. You are what you do with all of it. And that's where things get real, because once you let go of the wound, you lose the excuse. You lose the justification for why you keep sabotaging yourself, for why you keep choosing people who abandon you, for why you've never started what you say you want. You lose the shield. And now, it's just you. And that's the moment where everything can begin. The wound is where you start, but it is not where you stay, unless you choose to. And the world is full of people who chose to stay, who confused attention with love, suffering with meaning, performance with truth. But that doesn't have to be you. You can let go, not by forgetting, but by refusing to let the pain keep speaking for you. You are not here to live in the wound. You are here to become someone it could not destroy.
You won't notice it at first. There's no explosion, no trumpet sound, no grand revelation, just a subtle shift, a quiet calm where there used to be chaos. Not peace, not yet, but something that feels like the beginning of peace. The rage softens, the noise fades, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel the need to explain yourself to the world, because you're no longer trying to prove that your pain was valid. You're no longer waiting for someone to recognize your suffering. You're just here, still breathing, still standing, something else now. You look in the mirror and you no longer recognize the version of you who begged for validation, who needed to be understood, who performed pain just to feel seen. That version wore the wound like a badge, spoke from it, lived under it. Now you don't need the wound to speak for you. Now your silence is louder than your screams ever were. You've stopped explaining, not because you don't care, but because you finally do, about the truth, about your own peace, about what it costs to keep pretending. You don't post about it, you don't shout it from rooftops, you don't make it your new identity. You simply carry it differently, like a scar that no longer itches, like a song only you can hear, like a truth you don't need to defend anymore. That's the silent transformation Nietzsche was pointing to. Not healing as victory, but healing as integration. Not moving on, but moving into yourself, into reality, into the very pain you used to resist. You've stopped arguing with the past. You've stopped begging life to rewind. You've stopped demanding that your story be different. And because of that, you're free. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche. You still feel the ache sometimes, but it doesn't own you. You still remember what broke you, but it doesn't control you. You still carry the past, but now it walks beside you, not ahead of you. That's what healing really is. Not a cure, not a cleanse, not a miracle, but a rearrangement of how you hold the weight, of how you breathe under it, of how you walk forward without needing to be carried. You found your why, and it's not pretty, it's not noble, it's not poetic. It's raw, unpolished, personal. It's a why that makes sense only to you, but it's enough to keep going. And now that's all that matters. You don't feel like a hero. You don't feel enlightened. You feel heavier.
but it's a sacred weight, the weight of truth. You've outgrown the version of you that needed to be rescued. And in that quiet, private evolution, you've become dangerous, not to others, but to every illusion that ever tried to break you. You no longer need the pain to define you, but you'll never deny that it shaped you. You don't romanticize it, you respect it. And that respect is what makes you whole. This is what transformation looks like. Not louder, not happier, just more real. It doesn't get applause, it doesn't get recognition, but it gets closer to yourself. And maybe that's the point. Most people will spend their lives trying to escape pain, trying to move on, trying to heal, trying to return to who they were before. But Nietzsche's truth is colder and cleaner. You don't go back, you don't return, you don't become who you were before the wound, because that person didn't survive. You did. What's left is someone else, someone forged, someone earned. There is no before to go back to. There's only this, you, after the fire. Not better, not wiser, not enlightened, just real. And that is already a revolution. The wound was not a detour. It was the path. It was the initiation. It was the place where the false fell away and the essential remained. You didn't need to be rescued. You needed to be revealed. And the pain did that, brutally, mercilessly, without apology, but it did it. Now, what remains is yours. The ashes, the silence, the breath you didn't think you'd take again. You carry them like scars, but also like seeds. Because pain doesn't just destroy, it plants. It plants the strength to stop asking why, to stop bargaining with the past, to stop waiting for someone to save you. It plants the clarity to finally say, this happened, this shaped me, and now I choose what I become. There is no straight line to becoming. You break, you bend, you fall apart, you scream, you collapse, you doubt every breath, and then somehow you rebuild. Not because you're ready, not because you feel healed, but because something inside you refuses to stay broken. That's what Nietzsche was pointing to. Not comfort, not closure, but becoming. Through destruction, through choice, through the courage to stand naked in your own story and not flinch. Your pain is not special. It's required. Because without it, you would never meet the parts of yourself you were never taught to look for. Without it, you'd stay asleep in a life that asked nothing real of you. Without it, you'd be someone else, easier, softer, smaller. But you're not. Because you didn't just survive, you absorbed, you transformed, you began. So no, this is not a story of healing. This is not redemption. This is not closure. This is the beginning. The quiet, brutal, holy beginning of someone who is finally becoming real.
If this moved something inside you, stay. We're building something for those who don't fake it. Subscribe, not just for the content, but for the confrontation. And if this left a wound, maybe it was meant to. Sometimes the best way to go deeper is to share the pain. Share it.
Someone out there still thinks pain is punishment, still begs for comfort, still waits for life to make sense before they begin to live again. But maybe they don't need answers. Maybe they need the crack, the rupture, the invitation to become someone else, not after the pain, but because of it. Let this reach them. Let it speak the truth no one says out loud. Your pain is not your end. It's your beginning.